What's going on, guys? Phil Daru back again with another video. Now today I want to go over how to know if you are overtraining. Now I know this has been a topic with other YouTubers about overtraining and how to train to overtrain and all of this and that, but when it comes down to it, overtraining is something that we do not want to do. Now, there's going to be several things that you have to look for, but the primary thing that we're going to look at is types of fatigue. And that's the true definition, is over amount of fatigue that builds up into what we call overtraining effect. So with the types of fatigue that you're gonna see is gonna be acute and chronic. Now with the acute fatigue, you're gonna see fatigue that comes directly after or in the training itself, right? So again, you're doing some type of, whether it be sprint work or whether you're doing reps on a bench press, that fatigue is going to accumulate over time in between your workouts. And then obviously you're gonna have these problems. Now the signs that you're gonna see is gonna be loss of coordination. It's gonna be the inability to produce high velocity or high force, vice versa. And it's also gonna increase dizziness or lightheadedness. A lot of times, there's been plenty of times actually, that I've been in training sessions, wrestling sessions, grappling sessions, and a lot of you guys that do combat sports, you know that when times get really rough and you're digging down deep and you're trying to, produce true grit and finish off the training session, that dizziness occurs, right? That loss of coordination, that muscular fatigue starts to enhance and get worse and worse as time goes on. So that right there is what we call acute fatigue. Now, the one thing that's really going to hinder you is what we call chronic fatigue. Now, chronic fatigue, right, it has to be built up throughout time, right? So fatigue that has been built up and can last for up to 6 months if you don't take care of it. The signs that you're gonna see is gonna be loss of sleep, loss of appetite, loss of maximal strength and power, right? You're also gonna be more injury prone, right? Start getting little nagging injuries here and there, right? You're also gonna increase your inflammation. So inflammation of the joints, inflammation of the tendons, get a lot of tendonitis that way. Again, the inability to fall asleep and stay asleep and then be tired when you wake up. That's a real indication of getting into that overtraining effect, and we don't wanna do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you on how you can first see what it is so that you can mitigate it or reduce it so you don't get into overtraining. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so now that we know what type of fatigue there is, now we need to find out proper training methods that we can do or indicate on what we are actually going through, whether it be, chronic or acute fatigue. Now, there are two ways to do it. You have subjective and objective indicators. The subjective and objective indicators need to be worked on throughout each day, throughout the entire training camp, or wherever you're doing as far as, just your daily living. So the first one is going to be subjective indicators. Now, what are subjective indicators? Again, it's something that you can measure on your own without data. So you can check on your sleep, right? Checking on your sleep basically meaning how many hours are you actually getting to sleep? How well are you sleeping? Are you feeling tired in the morning? Just like I said before, right? You also want to pay attention to your mood. Are you irritated? Are you tired at times? Are you angry? Are you depressed? Those things are going to have high indications of you actually overtraining or at least in an overreaching phase. And also you want to make sure you're paying attention to your joint pain and gut inflammation, right? If it's very hard to digest food, if you have, tendinopathy or tendonitis built up, that's usually another indication of your overtraining, you're doing too much and you need to back off a little bit. Now, on to the objective indicators. The objective indicators are something that we can measure. That's true data. So you're gonna use technology in some ways. You can also use measurements of tools to help organize what's going on inside your body. So the first one is gonna be monitoring your morning heart rate. You wanna get a baseline heart rate reading. If it jumps up to over 5 beats per minute, then you know you might be in a slight stage of overtraining. Okay. You also want to check your body temperature. If your body temperature has increased, right? If it's gone up a bit, then you know that's another indication of you being overtrained. All right. Grip testing has been very important for us with the dynamometer. Now, if their grip test does not measure what you had in the baseline testing, that's usually an indication that they are fatigued, maybe even chronic fatigued, and you need to back off that day. Okay. Now, jump height. Now, there's so many different ways you can measure jump height. You can do a box jump. You can use a marker on a wall. You can use something like a velocity-based trainer or a jump mat. But you want to get that baseline test to realize what's going on and how good they are in the beginning, and then you can further see exactly what's going on from a fatigue standpoint. And if they are under 10 or even 20% of their baseline testing, then that's a time where you need to back off, look at their programming, and maybe give them a break that day, you know, bring down the volume, or just give them a break of the entire day and have them go home and rest, okay? Another one is going to be bar speed, and that you can use a velocity-based trainer. My last video that I talked about we uses the Gym Aware or Flex monitoring device, and basically what that does is that's going to measure out bar velocities. I'm going to go ahead and get a baseline testing of that so that when I give them a certain percentage of their bar weight, I want to see that move in meters per second that is directly correlated to what they got on their baseline testing. Again, if it's 10% lower, that usually is an indication that they are overtrained and we need to back off a little bit. All right. And lastly is going to be a heart rate variability monitor, right? You're measuring out the variances of your heart rate. If the heart rate is stagnant and stays the same for a 5-minute duration, that usually is another indication that you are fatigued. You want to have variances in your heart rate. If you don't, however, your body is stressed out, you're in a high sympathetic state, and you need to bring it back down to parasympathetic, maybe even dropping your training session that day, or at least doing some recovery and restoration work. Again, now, if you are chronic fatigue, it's going to take a long time for you to get over that. If you are overtrained, and really overtrained from a general perspective, then that is going to be something that you have to take into account. You may even have to drop all of the volume down slightly, maybe 60 to 70%, bring down the intensity about 15 to 20% on each training session so that you can get your body back to that homeostasis effect so that you can do what you need to do further on inside the year of your training. So again, I hope this helps, guys. You could take this with you. Make sure you're using subjective and objective indicators to measure out your overtraining or fatigue management. This is something that I do with all my fighters because, again, these guys are fighting and competing on a yearly basis, and they're training multiple modalities throughout the days and weeks. So, hope you can take this with you. You know what to do. Hit the comment down below if you like this video. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification. I'll see you again next time. Peace.